Welcome back, Sebastian here. So time for my review for the 2024 Brazilian Grand Prix. What an absolutely amazing race. Probably one of the best races, I would say, in the last several years. And yeah, definitely a very surprising result at the end, given where all these drivers were at the start of the race. So it started with Lando Norris on pole. Of course, we had qualifying earlier this morning, so you basically had kind of a super Sunday. Russell started P2. Sainz was opted to start from the pit lane. Obviously, suggests that he either changed some parts or they wanted to optimize the setup for the conditions for the race, which, spoiler alert, were wet. Albon, of course, was not able to start the race after qualifying in 7th, I believe it was. Had a very, very big crash towards the end of qualifying, and yeah, the team not able to repair the time and the damage in time. So yeah, very, very costly crash for Albon, and given the results that we had at the end of the race, you really wonder what could have been if Albon was able to start that race and perhaps have a decent result. We get going for the formation lap, but before the race even gets going, Stroll crashes on the formation lap in what was probably one of the most boneheaded crashes I've seen in quite a while. So he basically spins at the exit of the corner, or at the entry of turn 4, goes into the kind of tarmac runoff area, which is fine. He can restart, keep going, but then he basically just tries to take the shortest line back to the track and tries to go through the gravel. Doesn't have enough momentum and just beaches the car in the gravel. So we end up with an aborted start, and I know the aborted start is something that will be discussed quite a bit as well. But basically, this start gets aborted, and quite a few drivers, I think Norris, Russell, the two RBs as well, basically get going. And what actually is supposed to happen during an aborted start is the drivers are just supposed to stay on the grid. But basically, it's not, an extra formation lap like it sometimes is. Where you basically just go around one more time. Instead, the drivers were supposed to stay where they were. Luckily, one of the benefits of being in the wrong time zone and doing this review quite a bit after the race is finished is that we know Norris was given a $5,000 fine, so wasn't given a penalty for that move. We get going eventually. Russell takes the lead, so good start from him. And another loss of position after starting from pole for Norris. So keeping up that unfortunate streak for him. Verstappen has a very, very good start. He was up to 11th. Perez spins in sector 2, so not a great start from him. Second lap of the race, Verstappen just keeps moving up the field. Really good pace from him. He gets past Hamilton at turn 1. Lap 4, Behrman spins. Bit of a tricky race for the rookie coming in as a substitute for Magnussen. Had a couple moments here and there, but honestly, it was pretty treacherous out there. And based on how many drivers had offs, made mistakes, honestly, not too bad for Behrman there. Lap 5, Verstappen still making progress, overtakes Gasly into the first corner for P9. Lap 6 overtakes Alonso for P8. And this is where Russell, Tsunoda, and Lawson were noted for the starting infringement that I mentioned before. Lap 7, Behrman and Colapinto have a collision. Behrman basically spins and he ends up getting a 10-second time penalty, which I thought was very, very harsh because he already lost about 7 to 8 seconds because of the spin rejoining the track and stuff. And Colapinto basically just carried on as if basically nothing had happened. Lap 9, Verstappen is putting up more, tries to make a move on Piastri, not able to do so, but able to do so the following lap at turn 1. So really, really strong pace from Verstappen. Now he's basically up to some of the drivers who are closer to the front. Colapinto overtakes Hamilton for P12. That gets a very, very loud cheer from the crowd, as you would expect with so many Argentinian fans making the trip across the border to Brazil. Lap 16, Verstappen putting pressure on Leclerc, and this is kind of where Verstappen is basically absolute charge. The first 16 laps of the race kind of stops, kind of got stuck in a train, not a DRS train, because obviously DRS is not activated in wet conditions, but basically Tsunoda in P3 was kind of acting as a roadblock, and then you had Ocon behind, not quite quick enough to pass Tsunoda, and then you had Leclerc, who was just not quite quick enough to pass Ocon, and Verstappen was just not able to kind of get close enough to pass Leclerc. Russell is still leading with about a second lead over Norris, so really good pace from him. Lap 19, Berman overtakes Hamilton for P14 at turn 4, so good move there. Hamilton then makes a mistake at Jinsao, which is the penultimate, basically the final real corner of the track. He just kind of goes on the grass and then carries on his way. Verstappen tries to overtake Leclerc at turn 1, not able to do so there. Lap 22, Sainz makes a bit of a mistake at turn 4, has a bit of an unsafe rejoin. I think he could have been investigated for that, but spoilers, turns out to not really matter if it was going to be a penalty or not. And at this point, drivers are still on the intermediate tires that they started the race on, but those tires are starting to wear down, so they start having less and less grip. And this is where teams start to try to decide, do we want to pit for new inners? Do we want to pit for wets? There was rain coming on the way, so do you want to try to risk going on the wet tires and hope that that gamble pays off? Leclerc's first driver to pits on lap 25, pits for new intermediate tires. Hülkenberg 2, as well, so they both go down the order, pitting on the new tires. And what ends up happening for two of them is, especially for Leclerc, was that he was not able to basically make up pace to make up his position through the field. So basically got stuck behind a car. I think it was a Hamilton or so who was the car in front. But even though I think he was pretty quick on those tires, not able to move ahead. Hülkenberg rejoins. He then has an off. I think this is, yeah, he basically goes off turn 1. Actually, I have to move my cursor over here. He goes off turn 1, and then basically the marshals decide to try to help him get back on the track. I think it took quite a while, so maybe they thought he was going to retire, because usually the marshals are pretty good about not touching the car, because they know, if the marshals touch the car, that's a disqualification. So you can see, yeah, in the picture there, the marshals working on his car. There was so much chaos going on at this point as well. So in the midst of this, Lawson basically got spun by Piastri as Piastri tried to overtake him into turn 1, and Piastri would eventually get a 10-second penalty for that. That dropped Lawson to 9th place. Gasly gets past Piastri as well with the rejoin of that. Lap 27, Colapinto pits. Norris, good pace at this point, up to the back of Russell. Hülkenberg stopped at sector 1, so this is where he basically kind of stopped after he came out of, I think his lap after he came out of the pits. And then that brought out the VSC. But right before that, Ocon got past Tsunoda for P3. So Hülkenberg starts moving again, and this is kind of where, obviously race control is not going to be super happy about that, and he would be eventually black flagged for that move. Russell and Norris, though, both pit for new intermediate tires. This was definitely, I don't think this was a great idea from McLaren, because Norris at this point had pretty good pace, but they basically both decided to pit for the same tire at the exact same lap, and you're basically hoping that the guy in front has a terrible pit stop, because you're not really going to be able to get that position. So yeah, a bit of a strange pit call for McLaren, but I know Norris wanted to pit earlier, and they're like, no, we have to wait. And you would think pitting under the virtual safety car, you definitely would save some time there. Verstappen and Ocon both stay out, and this turns out to be really, really pivotal to the end final result of the race. And both RBs both pit for full wet tires, basically banking on some rain coming. No, this is not Germany 2018. There was actually going to be quite a bit of rain. Lap 30, Norris overtakes Russell for turn 4. Tsunoda very, very fast on his full wet tires, 33 seconds a lap faster than Norris on the full wets. But before Tsunoda can basically take advantage of being on the right tire at the right time, the FIA decided to bring out a safety car. And I think this was definitely the wrong move. You basically are completely nullifying the fact that some cars made an absolutely great strategy decision, putting on the full wet tires when it was the conditions on the track were for full wet tires, and you're basically bailing out all the drivers who are on intermediates. So definitely, I definitely disagree with the FIA's decision to bring the safety car. Then, not sure how it would have affected the end result of the race if they don't do that. Because eventually, what ends up happening is that Colapinto pits under the basically pitted under the safety car, and then he tries to catch up to the back of the pack, and he ends up crashing, going off pretty heavily in sector 3, and then they just decide to red flag the race, and this was massively advantageous for Verstappen, Ocon, and for Gasly, who had not pitted yet. And then basically during during the red flag, this is where Hulkenberg was basically kicked out of the race for the marshals working on his car. We eventually get going. Lap 33, we have the rolling start procedure, so no start grid, which is pretty normal in wet conditions. Behrman and Joe both kind of go off on the grass while we're restarting, but luckily they will both be fine and they both get back on track. Tsunoda, not a great start, drops behind Leclerc. Norris goes off turn 4 and lets Russell through, so a bit of a mistake there from Norris, as basically that red flag massively changed kind of the situation in the race. You basically had a position where Norris was basically going to gain 10 or so points on Verstappen before the red flag came out, to being in a situation where now Verstappen's gaining, at this point, it's like 15 points or so, or 10 to 15 points or so on Norris. So yeah, massive implications for in the championship as well that red flag had. Lap 35, Hamilton overtakes Alonso for P10. Lap 36, Behrman spins out turn 10 but gets back on track. Lap 38, Behrman then goes off again at turn 12, so a couple of mistakes from the young rookie. And lap 39, Sainz crashes at turn 10, and that brings out the safety car. Lap 42, safety car ends. And Verstappen takes the lead, overtakes Ocon into turn 1. So between the when we had the red flag and when we have the safety car caused by Sainz's crash, Ocon was leading the race. Verstappen not really able to put a ton of pressure on him, but the spray was pretty bad, and basically everyone was kind of about 2 seconds or so, a second and a half behind the car in front. Norris, again, has another poor restart, drops to 7th. Lawson overtakes Alonso and Hamilton at the same corner, so really good stuff there by Lawson. Alonso then goes off at Jinsao. Lap 46, Piastri basically told to swap positions with Norris because he has the 10-second penalty. Leclerc goes off turn 4, Russell gets ahead, so a bit of a mistake there by Leclerc. In lap 50, this is where Verstappen's magic basically begins. Verstappen basically just starts setting fastest lap consecutively, and I think I was reading online before I recorded this video that Verstappen set 15 consecutive fastest laps, and then he basically had a handful more with one lap where he didn't set a fast lap. So absolutely crazy stint this final portion of the race by Verstappen, basically going, I'm not sure, I don't think I've seen the data yet, but he's probably going like half a second a lap faster than everyone else on track. Definitely going much faster than Ocon, who is in second. Let's see. So lap 52, Piastri loses time at Jinsao, has a bit of a mistake. Perez tries to make a move on Lawson at turn 1 on lap 54, not able to do so, and Lawson definitely fights back quite hard. They make contact at turn 2, Lawson stays ahead, and Perez drops back and gets overtaken by Hamilton for P10. So I'm not sure how happy Perez is going to be. Second race in a row where he's basically had a scuffle with Lawson and kind of coming out on the worst end of that. Lap 59, Hamilton makes a mistake, and he basically drops back from Lawson, kind of gets quite close to Perez. We see the two of them going wheel to wheel through sector 2. Lap 60, Hamilton still stuck behind Lawson, not able to make a move on the Kiwi, and Lawson still defending very, very hard in the closing laps of the race. Perez tries to make a move on Hamilton, not able to do so. Final lap, Verstappen takes a checkered flag from 17th on the grid, I think 4th longest, tied for the 4th furthest back starting position to win the race. Tied. Last time we saw a driver win from 17th was Kimi Räikkönen at the 2005 Japanese Grand Prix, and before that you basically had Barrichello at the 2000 German Grand Prix, and I think a couple Indy 500s from the 50s are ahead of that. So yeah, definitely a very, very impressive drive from Verstappen. He wins the race by 19.5 seconds from Ocon. Gasly holds off Russell at the checkered flag, so we got 2 Alpines on the podium, and they get a ton of points in their Constructors' Championship Challenge. So, taking a look at your final result, I'm just going to draw my notes there. Your final results from this Grand Prix. Verstappen wins, Ocon second, Gasly third, rounding out the podium. Definitely a massive surprise today. Fourth, Russell. Fifth, Leclerc. Sixth, Norris. Seventh, Tsunoda. Eighth, Piastri. Ninth, Lawson. 10th, Hamilton getting the final point. And then Perez 11th, Behrman 12th, Bottas 13th. I was so hoping Bottas could get a point today, but just not able to do so. 14th, Alonso. 15th, Zhou. Your two DNFs are Sainz and Colapinto. Your two did not starts, Albon and Stroll. And your one disqualification is Nico Hulkenberg in the Haas. Now, taking a look at the championship standings, Max Verstappen, massive lead over Lando Norris at this point. I think it's 62 points, and that means that Verstappen needs to make sure he has more than a 60-point lead over Norris coming out of Vegas, and he will win his fourth Drivers' World Championship at next time out in Las Vegas. Let's see, other big changes. George Russell now moves past Lewis Hamilton, so he's now 6th on 192 points. And yeah, Hamilton falls to 7th. Let's see what else. And then you have Nico. Then you basically have a lot of changes in the bottom half of the bottom 10 positions or so. So if Tsunoda moves up to 11th on 28 points, Gasly also big mover, 12th in the championship now on 26 points. Stroll moves down 2 positions, he's on 24. 14th Ocon, 26 points, again moves up a ton of positions with that second place. Let's see how many points. Yeah, 25 points for Ocon, and then 15th Albon on 12. Ricciardo 16th also on 12. 17th Behrman on 7. 18th Magnussen on 6, 19th Colapinto on 5, 20th Lawson on 4, and then you have Zhou, Sargent, and Bottas all on no points. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren still lead. I do think they gained slightly on Ferrari in this race, so not great for Ferrari. Their gap still basically holds around 35 points, but now they only have 3 races to overturn that deficit. So McLaren lead with, let's see, 593 points, Ferrari second, 557, and then Red Bull third on 544 points. Fourth, Mercedes, 382 points, Aston fifth on 86, and Alpine going from 9th in the Constructors' Championship all the way to 6th on 49 points, Haas 7th on 46, and RB 8th on 44. So that's going to be a really interesting fight in the last 3 races, because I think all 3 of those teams are now in basically a pretty much very, very close fight for that 6th in the Constructors. 9th, Williams on 17 points, and then Sauber in 10th on 0 points, unfortunately, for them. So really, really good Grand Prix. Massive implications in the Constructors' Championship as well. So thank you so much for watching. And that's all for really my review of the 2024 Brazilian Grand Prix. I'll be back later today with my power rankings as well. So thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.